It's time to forsake the foolish. It's time to forsake the foolish. I'm in Proverbs chapter 9, and it says, forsake the foolish and live, and go in the way of understanding. You know, sometimes when the Lord calls us out of darkness, we have such an urgency and we want to see our friends and loved ones. We want to see them saved. We want to see people turn to the Lord. And you may be talking to them about the Lord. And I'm here to tell you, sometimes your greatest opposition can come from your friends, your family, and, you know, your husband or your wife, your partner. Sometimes you find you're both going to church, but then once the Lord really starts to deal with you and you begin to learn about relationship versus religion, you'll find one of you are like, wait, you're going too far. And so, guys, when you're trying to talk to your friends, when you're trying to talk to your family, when you're trying to talk to people about the Lord, the lost about the Lord, and they are cursing at you and they don't want you to teach them anything, all right? When certain things are happening, guys, sometimes you've got to just let it be, and you continue to pray for them. Now, guys, you have some situations where it's different. The Lord will have you to keep talking to someone, and there will be changes. There'll be changes, right? I believe it was, I can't think of the pastor right now. Pastor David Wilkerson, and he talks about how the Lord sent him specifically into this area, and he ended up saving this guy. I can't think of the gentleman's name, but he was a gangster in New York. And he ends up, you know, when he went to this guy, I want to say his name was Nicky or something like that, Nicky Cruz. And he went to him and he went to talk to him. This guy punched him. Nicky beat him up and punched him that first time. You know what I mean? But he kept going to him and talking to him. And eventually he started going around Pastor David Wilkerson, going to the church and just kind of watching him. He continued to give him love. He continued to show him love. But you know, I could tell you something. Nicky Cruz was not beating up David Wilkerson every day. This happened. He was aggressive towards him. And when you realize when you hear the testimony of Nicky Cruz, then you'll see why he was so aggressive against David Wilkerson. So sometimes we got to use wisdom in knowing what's what, guys. But he was going to be saved and God was going to call him out. But when he first went and spoke to him, he was in his area, he was in his arena, and he was very aggressive towards him. I think he pushed him down or he punched him or he did something like that. And David Wilkerson still got up and still spoke to him, even though he had him all scruffed up. And this is what moved Nicky Cruz, and he eventually became a preacher and a pastor. But guys, we're talking about a difference here, you know, because the Lord will show you and the Lord will give you the grace for certain situations where even though they're being aggressive, the Lord will keep you there because he is going to turn them around. But there are people that are not turned around and they have wisdom. And again, David Wilkerson was not getting beat up all the time. The Lord was not keeping him there so he can get towed up and beat down. You know, he said some words to him and everything like that. But his heart was really ready. The Lord knew that his heart was ready. And in those scenarios, guys, the Lord is going to give you the wisdom and the understanding to know what's what. But guys, there are people who their heart is just turned. They are turned away from God. So when you're trying to talk to them, and when you are trying to tell them about the Lord, they're not going to receive. So it says here in Proverbs 9 and verse 6, it says, forsake the foolish and live, and go in the way of understanding. He that reproveth a scorner getteth to himself shame, and he that rebuketh a wicked man getteth himself a blot. Reprove not a scorner, lest he hate thee. All right? So there's some people, guys, they're just foolish. They are a scorner and they are wicked and they are not going to change. And in these scenarios, the Lord is going to show you and it's going to be like, listen, get out from them. You've already tried to speak to them. You've met people like that, right? Where you're trying to tell them about the Lord and all they want to do is debunk everything that you're saying. You're telling them about Jesus and they're telling you he was just a man and he was just this and that and the other. And they want to counter you. So the thing about it is we're not trying to push the gospel, we share it. And if someone don't want to hear it and they have their own mindset, you're not there to try to prove and to, debunk and to compare dates in history to say, well, what God is, because I'm trying to tell you, even history itself does not have a full grasp on God. The wisdom and the knowledge of this world and things that we know is in part. But what you know is the Lord. What you know is your testimony. And that cannot be countered. They will try to tell you, oh, well, maybe this is what happened. When people, they died and they went to hell and things happened, they will tell them, oh, it was because of this and it was because of that. And this is what happened. And it was probably the drugs and it was this and it was this. People, they will always have an argument to debunk the gospel. But any other religion and stuff, people just quickly embrace it and they're open to it. And even if they don't believe in it, they're open to trying to understand it. But anything about Jesus, that's going to be a problem. So what we have to realize, guys, is that at times you have to forsake the wicked. What does it mean to forsake? It means to deny. It means to renounce. It means to quit. It means to leave entirely. It means to withdraw from. It means to reject. When people don't want to hear about God, when every time you're trying to talk to them, they're cursing you out and they're trying to belittle you and all of that, leave it alone. Because it says when you are trying to reprove them and you're trying to speak word and correct them, that you are going to get, the person that attempts to do that is going to get shame. And how many times have you tried to talk to someone, or at some point in your life, you try to speak the word and speak the gospel and teachings, and the person curses you out. They're insulting you. They're saying things, guys. This is what the Bible talks about. People will scorn the Bible and say it was a man-made book and all these different things, but then they believe in other books that's been written by people that was born in 1973. They're going to believe the books that's written by men. I don't believe the Bible, but you believe the book. You believe the yoga book. I don't believe the Bible is written by man and blah, blah, blah. But you will read anything that the Buddhist writes to you. You see? So it's really all about, it's not about what it's written, but what the heart is inclined to believe. I would tell you, so when you are trying to reprove these individuals and when you're trying to correct them, when you're trying to show them the right way, whether you're telling them about the gospel or you're just speaking to them about moral and ethical things and they're denying it, you must be in a place to forsake it. Leave it alone. When it says, he that reproveth a scorner getteth to himself shame. Because that's how they get. They want to shame you. They want to say things. They want to throw things in your face. And it says, and he getteth to himself a blot. That means when the person that's trying to correct a wicked person or a scorner, you're going to get yourself a blot. And a blot is anything that is to destroy, to stain with infamy, to tarnish, to disgrace, to disfigure, to darken, to put a spot in your reputation, to disgrace you, to cause you to be a reproach and to scorn you. You see that? Isn't that sometimes what happens when you're trying to share the gospel and you're speaking the gospel, whether it's to your friends, your family? They want to shame you. They want to put a spot on you. They want to tarnish you. They want to talk about your past. They want to put a spot and tarnish Jesus and God and if God's real. And so they get into this thing. They start going all over the place. And if God is so great, then why is this going on in the world? Because there's a devil in this world. Because there's Satan in the world. And if it's so this, why is nobody talking smack to Satan ever? Why is no one ever just raising their fist and cursing the devil? Because at the end of the day, they know who God is, but they are driven by darkness and evil. And so Satan will gladly curse God, and he will let you curse God because he wants you to be in the depths of hell with him. It says here, reprove not a scorner lest he hate thee. Okay? What happens when you're trying to correct them, guys? It's like it's a reproach, right? He brings a reproach. He that reproveth a scorner getteth to himself shame, and he that rebukes a wicked man getteth to himself a blot. Reprove not a scorner lest he hate thee. Rebuke a wise man, and he will love you. right? So they're there to bring reproach and shame to you. They want to censor you. They want to find fault with what you're saying, and they're going to condemn it as wrong, and they're going to argue with you about it. They want to bring a reproach to you, which is shame. They're going to have abusive reflection towards you. They're going to scorn you. That's an extreme contempt and despise. They're going to mock you. They're going to ridicule you. This is what happens when you're talking to a vessel that their heart is set on the things of evil. And so, guys, unless you're in a situation where David Wilkerson was with Nikki Cruz, which it can happen, the Lord's going to give you the grace, the anointing, and he's going to speak to your heart and tell you what you need to do. But keep in mind, Nikki Cruz wasn't beating up on David Wilkerson constantly. And it was time. The Lord was like, it's time. He's turning his heart to him, right? So guys, when it comes to the wicked and when it comes to people, the foolish person that hardens their neck against instructions and they harden their hearts against the word of God, you cannot force them. And as a believer, you never want to force them, because God did not force salvation on you. And so you have to walk in his light and in his way. That if you speak the word to them and they don't want it, then you walk away from it. You pray for them and you leave them alone. And I'm here to tell you, when you're praying for people, you ask the Lord, Father, should I continue to pray? Because there's a time, I can't remember which one it was, Jeremiah, one of those prophets, they were praying for the people and the Lord said, stop praying for them. I'm no longer hearing their prayers. I will add that I'll probably place it in this video when I upload it, add it as a text, or I'll pin it. When you are witnessing to people and when you are mentoring, when you are witnessing to people and when you're counseling people and when people has come to you, you need to have discernment within yourself to know when it's time to let go of a matter. Because the word of God is quick and it's powerful and it's sharper than any two-edged sword. And so you're going to find people, they're going to be saying that God isn't working for them and he's not, they just keep having all this trouble. But I'm here to tell you, a lot of times they're not sold out yet. They're not completely yielded. They're not completely obedient to him yet. And so that's why certain things are happening. And so you have to have the wisdom to know when it's time to withdraw. Because at times what it is, you're becoming their lifeline. They're becoming too dependent on you. So you have to be able to know the difference between when it's time to pull back and when you continue to help them and continue to counsel them, and to what degree. You must be in a place to know when you have to forsake the foolish. When it's time to forsake them. When it's time to go into the way of understanding. And sometimes the hardest thing is that you want everybody to get the understanding. You want them to be saved, but you have to remember they have to make the choice. They have to make the choice whether they want to accept the Lord or not. You cannot make that change for them. But what you can do is be the light. But remember, the light has to be up on the hill. You're not going to be able to be down there with them. And sometimes, guys, the Lord will have you there as a lamp for a while, to be there, to talk to them, to seek, to bring counsel to them and to help them. But after a while, you see, they'll be trying to put your light out, and your light is getting bigger and bigger. Your light is getting brighter and brighter, and they can't take it. And your light cannot no longer be down in the valleys and be there to kind of help them on the way. You have to go on the hilltop, and they have to be willing to to come up to the hilltop. They gotta want to come. They want to go higher. And so what happens with a lot of people is that they end up staying in the valley of dry bones. They end up staying in the dark places, and they end up getting spiritual gangrene. They end up getting, they lose their strength, because you don't know when it's time to forsake. When they are bent to blot you, to put a stain on you, to tarnish you, to disgrace you, to darken you, to put a spot in your reputation when you're trying to speak to them about God. When they want to censor what you're saying, they want to find fault with it. They want to condemn it as wrong. When they are being a reproach to you, they want to shame you. They want to abuse you in language and in speech. And they want to be extremely despising towards you and to mock you and to ridicule you. Then it's time for you to forsake. It's time for you to deny, renounce, to quit, to leave entirely, to withdraw from it, reject it, and turn in. Go in the way of understanding. There are plenty of people who wants to hear what you have to say. And perhaps in time that they will be in a place to want to hear. But if they are not, do not allow them to put out your light. Do not allow yourself to be sitting there, not going the path and not doing the things that the Lord has told you to do because you want to stay behind. Forsake the foolish and live.